Hey, welcome to Plants Are My Therapy, but today's video is not about plants. Today's video is about a homeless person pulling a knife on me in a parking garage elevator. So I guess it's going to be my first vlog. I debated long and hard whether or not to make this video because my channel is not about daily vlogs or crime or anything political. My channel is mostly about just plants, just relaxing, learning about plants, and just a happy channel. But then everything's a learning experience, and after a while, I told all my friends on social media what happened so they would be aware. And then I figured maybe I'll make this video for my channel because I never expected this to happen to me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Gerald and I live in Hawaii, which is a chain of volcanic islands in the middle of the Pacific. My home is in the suburbs of Honolulu, but this situation happened in metropolitan Honolulu. It was 9 o'clock in the morning and I was waiting to get into the parking garage elevator. No one was waiting with me, but when I got into the elevator, this woman came in and she was a little disheveled. I pressed the floor that I was going to, and then she was just staring at me. So I asked her politely, what floor are you going to go to so I can press the button? She said floor 12. So I looked at it and thinking, well, you probably is in the wrong elevator. But then she pulled a knife out and kept staring at me. So I pretended I didn't notice, and I watched her through my peripheral vision and through the reflection in the elevator doors. And I asked her, well, how was your day? Because she was obviously a psych person. And when you talk to psych people, especially in that small confined area, I was at a disadvantage because she had a knife. But when you talk to someone who's compromised in thinking, sometimes they don't hear your words, but they hear your tone, and it kind of confuses them or it diffuses them. And I was able to start a conversation with her, and she asked me, well, where was I going? I said, well, I'm going to go home. I'm not feeling too well. And she said, oh, I'm sorry. I hope you feel better, as she kept the grip on her knife. And then the doors opened and I said, oh, well, have a good day. It was nice meeting you. Have a good day. And as I stepped out, I tried to warn the two other guys not to go into the elevator. And I said, oh, I need to talk to you. And both of them looked at me and said, I'm not interested. I said, well, I really need to talk to you. And they just looked at me and just looked away. And the other one picked up the phone. And I didn't know how to tell them without triggering that woman on stabbing anyone. And then the elevator's doors closed and I was in a panic. I let those two men inside the elevator with that woman with the knife. And I ran around the garage looking for any employee or anybody else. I didn't know who to call. I ran into some maintenance workers and I told them about the woman with the knife in the elevator, and they just blankly stared at me. And I asked them if they could call someone, call security. And they said, well, they're walkie-talkies only for work. So I stared at them for a little while and they stared back. And then they told me I should go upstairs and report it to the security. Now security is in the lobby, so I ran back to the elevators to go back up to the lobby. But then I thought, I'm not getting back into the elevators again. So I rushed to my car, figure out, look for those security people who's usually running around in those golf cart things inside the garage. And of course that day I didn't see anyone, so I went to tell the lady in the ticket booth that they have a homeless person with a knife in the parking garage elevator. But then she just looked at me, and then I just repeated myself, and I asked her if she could call someone or do something, and she said, well, she cannot leave her booth. So I thought for a little bit, and so I said, okay, fine. I didn't know why I didn't think of it sooner, so I decided to call 911. So I got on my cell, but then that's when the car behind me started slamming on his horn. So I figured I better just leave and find some place to park. Of course, in in downtown Honolulu, the streets are so packed that there's no place you can pull over to call. So I pulled over at the harbor, and there was a safe place. They had no traffic. It was on the side, and I was calling 911. Then this security person came out of nowhere, telling me that I can't park there, and I told him what happened, and he said, well, you can't park there, you're gonna have to go to the parking lot. I said, well, the parking rates are very expensive in downtown Honolulu. I just need to call 911 to tell them what happened. And then he just said I had to leave, I had to move my car. So I drove off and went to a department store parking lot, and I called 911 and I told the operator what had happened. And then, well, I know you can get in trouble if you tell the operator that it's an emergency, but it's not an emergency. An emergency is life and death. And then I didn't know whether or not, because I was safe at that time, but then I don't know if anybody else was safe. I mean, why was this homeless person with a knife going down to the bottom elevator? She could have been going to rob somebody or stab somebody or something. I don't know what she was going to do. So, well, I said emergency, and well, I was right. If anybody's going to pull a knife on you, it's going to be classified as an emergency. And the police officer called back, and she asked me a few questions, and I told her what had happened. I said I was waiting at the parking garage elevator, and nobody was there with me. But when I got in, this woman rushed in, and she was just staring at me. So I asked her what floor she was going to go on, and she said floor 12, which is, there's no floor 12 in the parking garage elevator. And I was about to tell her that she was in the wrong elevator, but then I saw her pull out the knife, and she kept on staring at me. So I looked away, and I pretended I didn't notice. I kept my peripheral vision alert for her, and I watched her reflection in the elevator doors. And I kept talking to her. The police officer asked me what was she wearing. I told her, well, she was wearing a white t-shirt. She was carrying a white plastic bag. She had a dirty steak knife in her right hand. She was Caucasian with straight hair. And the police officer said, well, was she wearing any pants? What color were the eyes? I said, well, I'm sure she was wearing pants, but as soon as I saw the knife, I looked away. And I would not look a person holding a knife in the eyes to aggravate her or to antagonize her. So she said, okay, fine, I'll call you back if I need any more information. This was like my worst day ever. It was only 9:30 a.m. in the morning, and everyone so far had been rude or mean or dismissive. The most pleasant conversation I had thus far was with that crazy homeless woman in the elevator that pulled a knife on me. In retrospect, my advice to anyone is to make sure to be aware of your surroundings, and if you're alone in the elevator with someone who just appears to come in, well, just leave or get out as soon as possible. If this woman wasn't glaring at me while holding the knife, I would have probably just ignored her and had gotten off the elevator as soon as possible. But since she was already staring at me with the knife ready, I figured I had to diffuse the situation. So I talked to her, and just pleasant conversation, because usually psych patients, they get confused if you talk to them, and it usually diffuses the situation because it usually drowns out whatever's happening in their head. I don't know how I could have warned those two men who went into the elevators, but I didn't hear of anyone getting stabbed, so I guess that's all right. I don't know. It seems like people are just interested in what they're doing and don't really care about what else is happening around them. I should have called 911 right away. The security guards or the security people in these private businesses, they're not police officers, they're just people in uniforms. They don't know how to handle these situations, and a lot of them don't want to handle these situations, and they're not obligated to handle these situations. So I hope you were able to learn from what happened to me. Every situation is different. This is how I handled this situation. I don't know how I would handle this type of situation should it arrive again. Okay, enough of this. My channel is supposed to be about plants and about just relaxing and just learning, and nothing political, nothing stressful, just plants. So the next video will just be on plants, and thank you for bearing with me. Take care. Aloha.